Well, it's Jason here again with Threefold Solutions talking about Planning Center check-ins today. We're going to talk about something different today. We're not going to talk about children's check-ins. That's the standard way most people use Planning Center check-ins. But in this video, we're going to talk about maybe using check-ins in a couple different adult type check-ins. And that might be a baptism check-in. It might be a class or an event check-in. And I want to go into how you can utilize some of those check-ins to trigger different automations and information being written to the profile automatically. So in this video, I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's just jump right into it and let's look at some of the ways we can use alternate check-ins to actually help us automate data and automate information onto people's profiles. Let's jump in there. Okay, here we are in check-ins inside a planning center, and I've got a few set up here that may not look like what you're used to, or at least maybe some of you haven't used it this way. So I'm going to point out a few of the ways, first off, that we can set up check-ins for different use cases. Number one, it's baptism. Now let's take a look at this baptism event that I've set up. Now the idea here is that my church happens to do baptisms on a regular basis, but it's only about 4 times a year. So that's about every 3 months or so. And the idea is that we have a registration for it. So there's a sign up inside of Planning Center signups. We get an RSVP from somebody who says, I am interested in getting baptized on XYZ date. Now, when that happens, we know at least how many people are planning on being there, but sometimes we even have some walk-ups and we invite all to participate on baptism Sunday. So the way that we accommodate this is we allow those people to just walk up, jump in, and we use a check-in to capture their information. Now, the idea behind the check-in is that we have the opportunity to show not only who said they would be there, but who actually showed up for baptism by checking in the day that they arrived. Now, we do a little bit of a prep, and we have different things that we provide for them, from clothing to hair dryers and all the things that you might need when it comes to getting wet. But when they go through this process, we have this little bit of a receiving area, and we just ask them to quickly check in on an iPad and just simply say that they were there. They've attended this baptism. And once they've done that, they've now been stored in the baptism. So let's go over here and take a look at what this looks like. It's a very simple event. In this particular instance, it just has, your typical labels and location. It's just baptism. It's a single event. There are no extra bells and whistles here. I just need a place to capture the information. And that's basically what we're doing here. So that's a simple setup for this. Now, the way that this works is when somebody checks into baptism, we also utilize a list in Planning Center People. And that list looks at anytime somebody checks into this one specific check-in, and then it says, do this with an automation, which is write the date that ran and write it to their profile. So let's take a look at what that looks like in order to tie this together really quick. Okay, here we are in Planning Center lists, and I want to show you exactly what this looks like. So if you're going to set a check-in up for people to check in during baptism, you also want to write that date to their profile just to show that they've been baptized, and here's the date that they were baptized on. Now, the way that this works in Planning Center is you have your check-in. We've looked at that. You go to a list, and you also ask the list to look at anybody who's checked in to the baptism check-in or event in the last 3 months. Now, for me, it's 3 months, so let's just walk through this. So I'm looking at check-ins, attendance, attended, and then a specific event, and that's baptism, and then any location for this particular use. And I've just chosen Sunday at 9 a.m., but this could be any time. And then I'm going to use the since option here 3 months ago. Now, again, I said we do it about every 3 months, so that's kind of the way that I might look back in time to say I'd like to make sure I've incorporated anybody that's checked in. But really, I might be just looking at a very small slice of time, and I can dial this in and tweak it if I need to. And then, of course, it's any number of times, and I'm just including guests and regulars, no volunteers in this particular instance. Now, when I run that, I'm going to get all of the people that have checked into my baptism. Now, in order for this to run on a regular basis, we have to go over to settings, and we have to make sure that we're auto refreshing this. So I'm going to make sure I say this on a weekly basis, and I'm going to do it on Mondays, but just know it's going to run Monday at 2 a.m. Now, you may switch this and you may say, I would like this to run on Sundays at 2 a.m. Dial it in whenever you have your baptism. Make sure you're kind of tracking with this. Okay, so this is going to run Sunday at 2 a.m., but the fact is your baptism may happen on Sunday at 9 a.m., and it may be better for you then to run it on Monday at 2 a.m. so that evening it picks it up and actually sees who checked into your baptism event. Now, once that's set up, you go back and now we're going to click on automations. Next, we're going to go and we're going to click on Create Automation under the Automations tab. Let's go ahead and just open that up. And here we're going to say when a person is added to this list, then we're going to perform an action in people this time, because we're going to write data to their profile in a custom field. So then next, we want to basically find that custom field. For me, I have a tab called Important Dates, and this is where we store milestone information, and baptism is one of those. So now I'm going to choose Important Dates tab, update the baptism date field. It's a date field that I've set up in the custom tabs area. So you gotta set this up first. So this is a requirement. Now next, I'm going to go ahead and choose the date the automation runs. Now, for all intents purposes, if this runs on Sunday at 2 a.m., it's literally going to write this, on that Sunday. If it runs at Monday at 2 a.m., then the idea is that it's actually going to be shifted by a day, because the person may be baptized on Sunday, you're running it Monday at 2 a.m., and it's actually one day removed. Now, for my church, that's not a big deal. I just need to know that they have a date on their profile, and if it's in the general time frame of when we had baptism, I know that shifting it one day is not a big deal. But just keep that in mind. That's one of the things that you have to kind of set when it comes to choosing when this automation runs. So in this particular instance, it's the date the automation runs. Go ahead and create the automation. And now anytime somebody shows up on this list, that date is going to be written to their profile in that custom field. We've just now set up a way to track baptism in a check-in, and secondarily, we've set up a way for us to write that information to their profile. Now, there's a couple other ways we can utilize this besides baptism. Sometimes we have growth path or growth track classes, and this is another way we can do that. So let's go back to check-ins real quick, and let's take a look here. We've got growth track class number 1, growth track class number 2, 3, and we can basically use those just like we did with baptisms, where we ask people who are attending this class to check in when they arrive to take the class. What that does is it shows us that not only did they register or sign up and let us know that they intend to be there for RSVP purposes, but they've also shown up and checked in, which now shows they actually attended the class. Once they've done that, we're going to do the exact same thing we did previously. We're going to go back over to people, and we're going to do the exact same scenario where we've set up a list. And in this particular instance, we're going to do the exact same list we did before. It's just going to be slightly modified. We're still going to look at check-ins. We're still going to look at an attendance. We're still going to say attended, but this time we're going to choose that particular event that we've set up in check-ins, and it's growth track class number 1. At this particular point, I may have a specific date that I'm looking for, but dial this in where you're looking, on or between a particular date, and you just want to dial it in. But if this is going to run on a regular basis, you may try to dial that in since a certain time, so that you're always picking up people between a certain time frame since the last time you had a class. So dial this in however it works best for you. In this case, it might say since 1 month ago, or however often you offer those classes. Could be weekly. So just dial that in so that you pick up the people as they're added, and it could even be daily. That way you never miss somebody. So once it's set up, do the exact same thing we did before. I'm going to pause this for just a second. Okay, now while that's running, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to set the auto refresh settings. So once again, we want this to run either weekly, nightly. I'm going to set this one for nightly. You can set it for weekly. The idea is, though, it's going to capture people when they're added to the check-in. If it's weekly for you, set it to weekly and pick the day of the week. Now, once that's set up, the list is going to consistently run. So we just need to set up the automation next. So we're going to go create the automation, and we're going to say when people are added to this list, let's update a custom field again. And in this case, it's still going to be either an important date here, such as one of the ones that we've set up before, baptism, milestone dates, or I've got an actual, whoops, let me see, it's up here. I've got an actual growth track area. And in this particular area, I want to make sure that I've got a class taken. So here it's going to be class number 1. And I want to make sure that I write the value to class number 1 being the date in which the automation runs. So make sure you set this up properly. Sometimes you just want to know that they've completed it. And in some cases, you just simply want to fill in the custom field. So depending on the type of custom field that you have, it may simply be a yes or no. Yes, they have completed this, or in another case, it's the date that they've completed it. Set it up however it fits best for you. That's dependent on the custom field. But once you create the automation, you're simply saying when somebody has taken this class, I'd like to update this on their profile, and I'm going to check a box in this case for class number 1 being completed. So it's up to you. Use the date when it's necessary, like a baptism. Use the check boxes or multiple choice options that you have available in your custom fields to update whatever you want. In this case, it's going to check off class number 1, so we'll make sure that that's taken care of. So now I can track that for class 2 and class 3 and so on. You can use this across multiple areas. It's not just for membership classes. It might be for discipleship classes as well. You can do it anytime you have a check-in. So anytime somebody attends something and you want to capture that information, set up the check-in, ask people to check in when they arrive. Secondarily, set up a list with an automation and make sure you're looking at that event and setting up your parameters along with the refresh, the auto refresh, and then the automation. Hopefully that's something that will help you track your people, start to look at some of the milestone dates and information that you can store on their profile and get a much better picture later when you want to run a list of how many people were baptized between this date and this date, or how many people completed growth track this year. All you have to do is look at another list and point towards those custom fields, and now you can start tracking all of that information. Hope this one helped you. Make sure you'll watch for our other videos. We like to do these because we like helping people with Planning Center. If you enjoy these videos, make sure you click on subscribe and share them with somebody else that might benefit from it as well. Until next time, this is Jason with Threefold. We'll see you soon.